Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how to keep copycats, counterfeits, and Amazon thieves off of your brand. If that's something you're interested in, this episode's for you. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, business bros, he's the legal Sherpa guiding e-commerce entrepreneurs through the brand building jungle. From dodging counterfeiters to mastering due diligence, this guy helps founders turn IP into ROI. So please welcome the founder of EmergeCounsel, Mr. Steven Weigler. Welcome to the show, Steven.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well, my friend, doing well. E-commerce, man. Oh, I feel like your industry right now is all in the mix with China divulging all kinds of stuff. People are starting to look at e-commerce maybe just a little bit different. Let's kick this one off. How did you get started in this space? Give me a little bit of background about you.
Sure. So my experience, I started out just as a normal litigator, and I actually started out as a criminal litigator. In Miami, Florida, of all places, and just learned how to kind of toughen up. And then through a number of just career iterations, I ended up with my own business focused on kind of technology in school districts, predictive analytics. It was a pretty interesting play, and I had to raise a lot of money for it. And so really learned a lot about how to grow kind of what was supposed to be a unicorn business, meaning that it's, go big or go home, because the investors really, when you start raising money like that, well, they could put it in the stock market, get money back at 10%, but they want to take risk, and so they're looking for really big rewards. So anyway, it was a very high pressure, very good learning experience. Anyway, through my experiences through that, I exited that. It was kind of the good, the bad, the ugly. And about 10 years ago, kind of wrote down on a piece of paper, well, what'd you learn? And I learned that, first of all, brand is everything. Mm-hmm. And so brand was kind of a big part of it. So I learned it. And when I was doing the company, I also did my own trademarks. And so I knew a lot about that. I also learned, okay, when your company grows and gets close to being valuable, or M&A, like you're kind of exitable, what a company like that looks like, and how you have to groom your company, and what legal requirements, and kind of when you work with an attorney and when you don't, to get to that point. And so I really kind of had the template on how to build a successful business using legal services. And around that time, e-commerce was just starting. And I mean, it was around, but it wasn't around like it's around now. Like there was no real Shopify or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And so just my message resonated a lot with e-commerce sellers. And so my whole thing is taking e-commerce sellers and others. I do a lot of different kinds of businesses, kind of taking them through the steps of when you need an attorney, how to work with an attorney, and how to build a company, a well-groomed company, to get bought.
Yeah, building a company like that is completely different. I think most entrepreneurs go into this space thinking a lot smaller than they should, mainly because they kind of want to be solopreneurs at the beginning. They might have aspirations like they were going to build something huge, but it kind of struggles. You went through that whole process to learn how to raise those funds, how to build the company correctly so you can sell it. And even when you have a good plan, you still make mistakes along the way. What's some of the biggest illegal mistakes you find e-commerce founders make early on as they're building their company?
Sure. So the first thing is failure to protect the brand. And so remember that a brand is more than just a name. It's the entire customer experience. And so when you're when e-commerce started, there was people that were arbitraging, people that were white labeling. And it really didn't, as long as you had the clipboard or the paper clips or whatever, and you could sell it at a lower price, make up a name. And if that didn't work out, then move on to something else, etc. Of course, competition, that was good for a little while maybe, but competition kind of catches up. And right now, it's not easy to sell ubiquitous goods without a brand experience. And so you have to look at what that brand experience is, and you then have to protect every step of that brand experience. And as attorneys, we have tools to do that.
Yeah, you talk about the legal game plan for successful exits. What does that actually look like when you're talking about an online brand?
Sure. So I like to look at it like you kind of look at what due diligence would look like if any company is going to buy you, and you kind of go backwards. And so having done a number of e-commerce deals, and again, deals in general, I usually represent the seller. I'm sorry. Like I don't represent private equity or someone who's rolling up, maybe meaning taking different companies and trying to combine them together. I'm usually on the seller side. And so at the time that they're going to sell the company, my client, they're going to go through the ringer. They're going to go through a huge series of questions and document requests. And it goes everywhere from how was the entity formed, and did you take minutes and notes of annual meetings? Do you have bylaws? Did you follow the bylaws, et cetera, like corporate organization? To, are you keeping adequate? Is your P&L for real? Is it, a lot of people don't go get it formally audited, and that's usually okay. But is it for real? Did you keep adequate financials of the inventory, et cetera? Is it well capitalized? And how is the operational structure? Meaning, say it's an LLC and you have 5 partners and you don't have an operating agreement. Well, that's not probably the right formation strategy, or governance strategy. Taxes are always a big part. And do you have a brand? Do you have a plan to protect your intellectual property so that infringers aren't knocking off your brand and your customer experience in the marketplace?
Now, I mentioned
a huge part of it.
Yeah, I mentioned early on about I'm starting to see a bunch of Chinese vendors out there kind of going around, skirting around the brands and showing manufacturing is being done here, avoid the tariffs or use the tariffs, buy directly from consumers. And there's all this talk about how they're possibly infringing an IP. How do you protect it when you're overseas like that?
Sure. So the first thing I did is I joined a number of international societies, and actually an international kind of group of similarly situated people in other countries. And so the thing is every country has its own intellectual property laws, including China, and they follow, for the most part, each country follows their own laws. And then there's treaties that kind of synergize the laws so commerce can take place. The first thing is you have to understand how those laws work together and have counsel that your attorney works with all over the world that can help strategize what the IP protection strategy is. How I like to look at it is you start out with everyone has their own product, right? And they have their own distribution chain and they have their own supply chain. And so you have to draw out the supply chain, figure out where every place the ship is stopping, and then on the distribution side, you have to look at your, say, Shopify list, and look where or if you use a 3PL, which is a third-party shipper, where that 3PL is actually shipping, and make sure that you have protection in all those places.
How important is it to do the trademarking in e-commerce? Like when should founders start the process? Because I know early on it could be a cost thing that's worrying them. It could be like, is this the right time? They're probably unaware of what kind of entity structure they need to do at the beginning. But for the trademarking to build that brand, when should founders start that process?
Well, the first thing is, and we offer this service for free, but they should do what's called brand clearance, because think about how much money you're paying for, say you're starting in e-commerce and you have a container, and say you want to, you have to order at least a container to make it a profitable product. So you're about to order a container, say it has your brand on it, say that brand is infringing against someone else's brand, and say it could be, if you don't check, it could be seized at customs. And so you're taking a huge risk by not checking out if you have brand clearance. And so that's the first step, is to make sure you have brand clearance. And again, that's not that it's an easy step, but we can do a USPTO search and kind of give you a basic assurance. That's number one. Then when your brand's solidified, meaning you are getting a container in or you are about to sell it, you should absolutely, it's not very expensive. You should get a trademark. You should register a trademark, and you should register for the name of the product. One trademark is fine, the name of the brand or the name of the product. Usually in one category, there's 45 different categories. And so there's a lot of nuances to it. And everyone has, that's why we exist, is to kind of, the application, if it's a number of pages, but it's not such a hard application. It's figuring out the strategy and how you're going to provide the maximum amount of protection at the minimum amount of price. And so most of our clients in the trademark space, if it's just prosecuting a trademark, is very early stage. It's kind of form the right entity, and we provide business services on that. And so is it an S Corp? Is it a C Corp? Is it an LLC? And then second is to make sure that you have protected the brand.
Now, it's one thing when you are, you have a brand and you don't know, and maybe it's a mistake where you're out there, somebody else has already trademarked that. But there are other people who do it on a counterfeit level. There's shady sellers that are out there. What's probably like the most low cost, high impact way to protect your products from counterfeiters or shady sellers?
Yeah, that's a good question. The first thing, it goes back to, you don't have much protection unless you formally register the protection. So just to give you an idea, you're looking at about a $2,000 all-in cost to protect the brand. And so it's, that might be like, well, $2,000, I could spend that on inventory. But again, you really have to put, are you on I want this business to grow and succeed, or is it kind of a lifestyle thing? And if it doesn't work out, you're just going to, sail into the sunset. If you have any inclination that you want to grow your brand, well, you have to start out by protecting it. If you don't protect it, you're out of luck. If you're shipping from a foreign country, mostly China, you need to protect the brand in the places that you again ship. And so we can help you file foreign applications. And it's not, the price is kind of not very expensive, like, maybe $1,000 to take that trademark in the United States and protect it in China, because we have treaties, etc. So it's really kind of creating, again, what is your import strategy? What is your export strategy? And then figuring out, at least do a cost benefit analysis of protecting at every place. Once you have that, it's a lot easier to enforce your rights. China is what we call an administrative state, meaning they have a lot of regulations and they have a lot of administrative bodies that help protect trademarks. And so if you have a Chinese, they're not going to help you on an American trademark, but they certainly will help you on protect, not, you have to enforce your own trademarks, but the law and the processes will help you protect your goods on Chinese soil. And so it's kind of a combination of having at least a bare bones strategy of formally registering or protecting the IP at the various places, and then using that as a tool to effectuate takedowns, which you can go directly to Amazon or Shopify, etc. And also being ready to enforce the IP in various countries that you're seeing it pop up.
Now, we mentioned earlier that a lot of entrepreneurs get started, kind of solo entrepreneurs. They're trying to figure it out. And eventually, a lot of them or some of them do figure it out and they start scaling. And it's not until they start scaling that they start thinking about legal ramifications, because now all of a sudden they're making more money. They got things coming in and they start thinking about legal. But why is that risky? Why is it risky to wait until you start scaling to get legal help?
Sure. So you look at, I kind of look at, because again, I have both business experience and legal experience. I kind of look at them, an attorney's just kind of part of your team. It's not your C-suite, because you don't need to talk to us every day, not even close. But you should have some attorney that you know, that you trust, that understands your business, that understands you and what your goals are as an entrepreneur. And that relationship should be built from the very beginning of your business. I have a lot of really early stage clients that I help maybe with a trademark or don't help at all. But they have a relationship with me and know when to discuss things with me on, hey, I started as an LLC? Do I need to, what's the advantages of an S Corp? Can I even have an S Corp if I have foreign investors? I'm thinking about having my dad's company invest in me. Can I have an S Corp? The answer is no. So the point is like, you should always have someone to kind of discuss those legal aspects with you. A big stage is usually start out as a solo, or sometimes you start out as a partner, or you bring on a partner. How are you going to arrange that relationship and cover your butt without having an attorney involved? And so there's just a lot of things that come up through the entrepreneurial journey that you need to talk to counsel. And so you don't want to, go on LegalZoom at that point. You want to kind of start with, hey, I'll feel around to counsel that kind of empathetic or understands me, understands my needs, isn't looking to make a killing off me, and wants to build a long-term relationship. And start there. And I think a lot of my clients are surprised at how little it costs to put that kind of C- suite, meaning on your team. And if you don't have that on your team, what happens is you grow willingly or not. It just, things happen. And then you don't have the base, the framework put together. It's kind of like building a fence. If you don't have the base of the fence and you're adding on things, what's wobbly on the top? It's just the nature of physics. And the same holds true with legal foundations. This is just a part of how, if it's not litigation, meaning if you're not fighting, it's just all a bunch of tools that you use to maximize your business value and tools to do business. And attorneys, business attorneys and IP attorneys, we're in command of those tools. And if you call us and the fence doesn't need to be built, well, we're not going to charge you for the fence. It's just not, we're probably going to have a free call and just talk it out and then figure out what your strategy is and know where we fit and know where you're going in your business.
Now, obviously, Amazon is probably one of the big places that e-commerce people want to sell. And they have a brand registry. How should founders, or what should founders know about that brand registry, and how does it help fit into their brand protection?
Well, the brand registry has been a real interesting one. Long and short is you need to get on the brand registry if you're going to sell on Amazon. And because it provides increased enforcement if there's infringement, and it also provides a much more enhanced listing than a non-Amazon brand registry listing. And that already is like, well, you don't want to be on, if you're selling on Amazon, I think very few people want to be on the bottom and have a minimal listing. To get on the brand registry, you need a registered trademark. And so that right there is kind of the cost of entry to get on Amazon. Amazon and where it helps is that if you're on the brand registry and there's infringement and you see it, you have your registration number and you give it to Amazon and they theoretically will take it down. So that's a brand registry on Amazon. there's a lot of techniques that Amazon isn't in the business of explaining to you, that can happen with kind of counterfeiting and Amazon listings. And depending how bad the problem is, even if you have a registered trademark, there's really big strategies you can use to take Chinese sellers, mostly Chinese, down. And it involves some pretty intricate litigation strategy, but it can be quite lucrative too.
Now, earlier you mentioned due diligence, and I'll be honest, due diligence always sounds scary. It sounds like a lot of work that I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing my diligence on. But what can founders do from day one to be ready for like an investor or even to be acquired through all that scrutiny that they're going to go through?
Sure. So throughout the business process, you should always be working with your kind of advisory team, and that could be your C-suite. Sometimes I have clients that have a strong like CFO and a chief marketing officer and an operating officer, but they're always kind of, or they have outside advisors, whoever you trust, including counsel and including a good CPA. You should always be kind of kicking the tires of your own business. And so, um, and it's not, I did it today with, and it's not the easiest sometimes. Like you're kind of like, well, no, I know that, but you need to look at your business in a 360 view. So again, are you using what's called GAAP, general accounting principles that make sense in your inventory count, for example? Do you have employment contracts with your employees or employment handbook that explains, for example, commission structures? Are you recognizing revenue the right way? Are you collecting sales tax? If you're, for example, an e-commerce seller, is that legit? And have you always been doing that? Are you in a situation where it's going to be difficult to get say you can't sell the company until all the investors, because your bylaws say this, for example, that all your investors have to agree on a sale. Well, and you have one that's rogue or disappeared. Do you have problem employees? I can go on and on and on. Is your business model profitable compared to others? Like you're using a 3PL or you're using Fulfilled by Amazon that costs, double the amount that you could be. So are you maximizing your P&L? And so there's just so many things that come up in the due diligence stage that, again, it's not hard if you thought about this stuff all the time, and it's really running a company. One thing I know is that this is especially true in software, which is in e-commerce. But if you're building a code deck, you should always have that code deck audited by either your CTO, so you can explain what's open source, meaning that you don't own it, what is original code, what's string code, etc. Because a lot of due diligence when it comes to SaaS or software as a service company gets hung up on due diligence based on the fact that they have no paper record of how they got this code. And so that holds true for a lot of e-commerce businesses too. Anything that's on the internet, you kind of got to know where you got it. And so, look, when you build a business, it is quick. And then when you have a moment to breathe, you're not going back and trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. You're trying to either get to the next stage or get the calories in your belly so you can get not mentally exhaust yourself and get to the next stage. I get all that. So the thing to do is really kind of work it into your routine. That say my days are Tuesdays. So today is what I call my administrative day, where I do all this stuff to and I don't like some of it, but I do it to make sure that everything organized so I can my business meets my internal due diligence. And I think most entrepreneurs know in their head that either they're maybe the thought person and not so much the document dot the I cross the T person, or that there's something bothering them that they haven't had the time to fix. I think it's kind of innate that most business owners are that have gotten stayed in business more than a year are intuitive enough on how to manage their business that they know what due diligence would kind of look like. But a lot of it is like, again, I just close my eyes sometimes. I'm like, if someone came in and wanted to buy my business, what would they be concerned about?
Mm. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of the legal stuff does seem overwhelming. It does seem complex. That's why people reach out to you. That's why they want to work with somebody like you. So how do you work with entrepreneurs who feel overwhelmed by all these legal complexities? Where can they go to get that kind of help? And what are they going to find there?
Well, you have to be, it's like one of those things that I geek out on. But I understand. And as I get older, which I am, I understand that a lot of people don't geek out to the same things I do. But what I would say is that what I use is a lot of empathy and explain when most of my clients call, because again, I ran a business for 9 years. Like it wasn't small. And this is honestly a business, it's a services business, but it's a business. And so I have a lot of stories of my own that when a client calls, I can kind of empathize with them, explain what my personal journey, why I and how I felt about it, and what I think they would need at that time, and kind of put myself in their position. So that's always the first thing I'm going to do is like provide advice like I'm them, because I had not the exact same, no one's had the exact same experience, but similar positions. I've lived the good, the bad, the ugly. I've seen millions of dollars go through my hands. I've done, that's the advantage of getting older. But so that's the first step, is to really kind of listen to and get some empathy, not sympathy. It's like business is business. It's hard. It's just hard. And so, but it's empathy. It's like kind of like, all right, here was my situation, here, etc. And here, if I were you, after listening to the entire situation, here's how I would proceed if I were you. Then, so at that point, it's not so mysterious because I've kind of explained the process and explained kind of why you need it or why you don't need it, or call me when you need it. And then really then we do a lot of kind of project planning. So having done project management for my company, and we kind of project manage the legal process too. So there's deliverables, there's a process on how we're going to get to those deliverables. And there's kind of I have a good idea on how much that's going to cost, as long as it's not two people fighting, because if two people are fighting, there's no way to price that out, which is why litigators make a lot of money. It's like, that could go on forever. Like until So otherwise it's kind of been there, done that. And so that kind of combination of, is very helpful for my client to understand. Other thing I do is you can't, and some attorneys, a lot of attorneys do this, is like the moment the phone picks up, billing away, which I always offer, at least if they're a client or about to be a client, I always offer like free telephone calls. Whenever you want, emails, whenever you want. If you're in the same city as me, let's talk. I want to hear what you're thinking about. And then we can kind of work that out to figure out what you need legally. And if it's other professional services, not psychiatry or anything, but other professional services, I'm going to also find you those services. And so, sometimes it's like they tell me what's going on. Say it's a God, I'm making a lot on the top line and not a lot on the bottom line. It could be a CPA thing. It's like, well, let's figure out how to fix you're paying yourself a salary of 150,000, 200,000, and you could be paying a distribution instead, and really saving a lot on taxes. And so there's all kinds of things but I have to know what's on your mind. And so again, but people are always afraid to talk to attorneys, number one, because they don't think we're very approachable, and a lot aren't. And number two, they never met one, or they just have never hung out with an attorney, because the connotation is we're we're not fun to hang out with. And number three is, and that's probably true for most. And then number three is that, oh my God, it's going to cost me a ton just to pick up the phone. And again, it's not, sure, there's some, and we have so many hours in the day, but a lot of it is like, how I look at it is like, hey, I hate going out to lunch. I just really, that ruins my day. It's kind of like you're full and you break your day. So I'd rather, as opposed to going out to lunch with clients or, going to sporting events or whatever, I'd much rather just use my business development time as, hey, anyone, you could be a client, you could be someone else's attorney's client. Call me so we can build a relationship and talk about what you think the needs of your business are.
That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Look, if you're going to build a business, the best way to build it is as if you're going to sell it. Now, do you have to sell it? No, but if you build it that way, it gives you all the opportunities you can later down the road as you get older, as you want more time, as life changes. If you build it correctly, you will be you will thank you for the things you've done. But it's not always easy. You got to find people who've already done what it is that you're looking to do. And Steven here has definitely done that, not only himself, but also helping people get to where they want to go. Make sure you guys check out EmergeCounsel.com. Reach out, give him a phone call. He's here to help you out. Take that next step, take the action. I promise you, even if it's just a conversation, you'll come out knowing a lot more than you did before the phone call. Steven, thank you very much for being on the program today.
It was great talking to you.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace, and we're out.
Take care.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started